They think of entrepreneurs as risk takers and swashbuckling, just give it a crack. And I think it's exact opposite. The good entrepreneurs manage risk and know what they're taking on and ensure they can survive it. Thank you so much for joining us on Digital Dividends podcast. Really excited to get some of your experience and learn some of your 25 years in property and some of how you, I guess, the inspirations for what got you started, some of the lessons you've picked up along the way. Love to get, some of your views on how you drive your business, how you set your targets, even what drives you to do that at all. Like, where's the fire in Peter Costello come from that makes you get up each day and go, this isn't good enough, I've got to do more, or do better, I want to go somewhere else than where I am. I don't know what you're scared of. Maybe it looks to me like you're running somewhere. That you are a negotiator building this national property advisory and land access firm from the ground up. I mean, you bootstrapped your business. You're now in 4 cities. You've got a whole ton of projects on the horizon, and you're navigating your way into that. Yeah. I'm going to let you share some of the actual headline numbers, but maybe give us a bit of background just for our listeners. Who is the Costello Group? What's the germination of that idea to start that, and some of your background that got you running the company that you're running today?
Mate, absolutely. Thanks for having us. Great to be here, have a yarn. Hopefully, we can talk about business, and maybe if it turns into a therapy session, psychology session, and I can work out what I'm running from, that'd be
my hourly rate for service. A little more than my normal one, actually. So yeah.
Costello Group. Probably a brief rundown to sort of start off. We kicked off 2013, so I've been going for 13 years, specialise across 2 main areas. First area we specialise in commercial property. Second area is land access, which probably not too many people are familiar with, but we can have a chat about. The third half that we've got there is a tech business focused on commercial property. So fast forward to today, we're operating across almost every state and territory in the country. Got a few more to tick off, but Queensland is where we started. That's where the head office is here. Projects that work on in New South Wales, Victoria, WA, and the NT at the moment. So it's been, great to have that sort of spread now across the country and working across all sorts of different projects and various people across the country at the moment. That's been great. But to get there, 13 years of sort of toil and make a lot of mistakes, but I'd way having a crack at different things that may have worked, that may not have worked. Plenty of learnings over that time. I worked for a company called Savills. They're an international company. Yeah, that reached the so I worked there for 7 years. That's all property focused, but an opportunity came up where I could use that commercial property experience to go and do something called land access. And I didn't know what land access was until I got out there. Turned out I loved it. It was really, really transferable. But that was a contract opportunity that came up where I had to create an entity. It wasn't very creative. I just called it Costello Group because that's all I had.
You sure you didn't need to know that?
Yeah, mate, if I hadn't known you then, I should have come to you. But so that was probably the best. One of the best things that happened was that opportunity came up where I was essentially a contractor, but learning the basics of business with one client. I didn't have to worry about chasing work. I didn't have to worry about paying the office rent. I didn't have to worry about the thousand of things that come up. It was really a good grounding of probably the first year or 2, maybe a bit longer.
I love that excitement when you register a domain name.
Oh yeah.
Then you've got your ABN in there, and then you're doing your first invoice. I'm going to put my logo at the top. Invoice. Oh, I better not start with one. Invoice 100. Did you do that? Everyone does.
The thing of just stopping one day and we got this brilliant business idea.
Yeah.
It was kind of a natural progression. And to be honest, you look back 13 years, it's kind of happened over and over.
Who was in your world to say, I got this idea, what do you think? Did you soundboard this off anybody, or you followed your nose into that opportunity of picking up that one major client and servicing them?
I didn't really know where we were going to take it early on. I've always either knowing or but I subconsciously knowing having my own business is something I want to do. I didn't know when I was going to do it, but the opportunity actually came up. A few key mates of mine actually at the time from uni or in the property industry, they actually found out about the opportunity to go and do this contract.
Right.
And I remember sitting down with that potential contractor and walked into the meeting. It was a guy that I knew from the commercial property world. So such a small world where, whilst I didn't go to someone and say, hey, I've got this great idea to do a commercial property and land access and blah, 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 definitely the relationships with other people that I knew at the time that actually I was talking to, they brought the opportunity. Then they thought, okay, yeah, well, he's good. We'll have him on our team. It wouldn't have happened. So it kind of happened through contacts, but it wasn't a hey, what do you think? Some urges
rather than sort of directive. And the other one, of course, is the person who wants to know everything before they move. You do need to know a bit, and then be comfortable with the bits you don't know, and find out, however, move more of those unknown unknowns into known unknowns. I still don't know it, but I know what it probably is, and I'm prepared to go forward anyhow. And the other thing I'd add to that would be, people think in the popular vernacular. I think they think of entrepreneurs as risk takers and swashbuckling, just give it a crack. And I think it's exact opposite. Good entrepreneurs manage risk and know what they're taking on, and ensure they can survive it. So no, we want to be taking these risks. So you've jumped in, you've started your business, you've got the one client. What sort of started to pop up in your mind as to, where to next, and what else do I need to think about, or broadening that into more clients? How did you sort of expand beyond that one initial sort of brief and call?
I was probably 2 years in, I think, 3 years in. And again, it was a bit the same, where probably not the intentional decision, but it was a couple of learnings on those contracts. Was like, hold on, this is actually, there's value in what I do. So an example of that is early days. Our first ever contract was with a major oil and gas company here in Queensland. Then we went to work for another oil and gas company in Queensland. So the first one was QGC,
right? Then
into Arrow, so very similar businesses. But the job, QGC taught me a lot around access, a lot about how you deal in that environment and that business. The Arrow experience in that sort of second, third year, again, contractor, you're in their office, you're working there every single day, single client type of approach. But what I noticed there is, particularly when I was working as a commercial property agent at Savills, you're kind of in that world of the property world. You're dealing with property people all the time. They know their business back to front. So you've got a role to play, but you're not really adding any new dimension to it.
Yeah, you're getting it done, but not driving it or leading it.
Yeah, that, and also what you're working on, they know it really well. You're doing your job, which is, bring a tenant or bring a buyer, and they're developing it, they're funding it, they're doing all the other parts to it.
Yeah.
At the contract with Arrow, I distinctly remember it. So I was sitting in a room with a lot of people from that company who are super experienced. Their business is oil and gas. Very good at it.
Yeah.
Huge business. The scale of those businesses blew my mind. The people, the amount of money, the amount of investment that they have in those projects is huge. But sitting at the table, we were talking about certain things in a commercial property context, which most people that work in commercial property or in the job that I do, they know that is 101. But applying that to a big business that's not a commercial property business, which is the other sort of, I would say 90% of that market. Power on that, I realised, okay, we can provide this sort of in-house, if you call it that. It might not be that. It's just more of an advisory capacity to clients now. Well thought out, structured approaches on how to deal with property, commercial property for these big businesses. The commercial property is not their game. Super valuable. And sitting around that table also, I noticed that, there's massive companies that do commercial property, global companies that do it. Looking at the logos on the certain submissions we're looking at, they didn't really know who was who. There was varying levels of sort of expertise and size on those properties. They're the biggest. So
well, see, big business is about mitigating risk more so, because they've got the business, they've got the engine that's turning over. But it sounds like you were going from someone who, in other sort of areas, you were operating the machine. But as you go into Arrow, you've actually got to build the machine and then operate it, because they don't have that capability internally. So you're becoming that internally. And when you're sitting at a table at a much bigger game, bigger table stakes, and bigger brands, as you say, how did you deal with, and I'm assuming you had some, imposter syndrome, when you're sort of sitting there and you're thinking, oh my God, I'm so over my skis. If this blows up, I'll never get another job in my life. How do you sort of deal with that anxiety?
Probably the first thing to say about that, it doesn't change. It's kind of, I don't know, whether it's myself or the way I think about things, it's always there, you know. And even just saying we've been going for 13 years, we do this, we do that, you kind of look back, you're like, oh, and doesn't feel like that. As long as you're doing other things outside of business or work that kind of balance that, exercise, taking care of yourself. That's pretty important for me. But I think it's good to have it there. You need to use it to your advantage, because that actually, for me anyway, it drives me to think, okay, well, I need to get this right. Whatever proposal I'm putting forward, whatever thing that I'm suggesting needs to be done will have an impact. I need to make sure that I've done all the work in the background to ensure that I've made sure all the numbers are correct, all the attributes that I'm putting forward are correct, all the considerations, the discussions I've had. I've checked the market wholly in a property sense to do that. I find it when I do that, and you go into a meeting like that, or you go and deal with a client like that.
It's good to be a little scared though, isn't it? Because when you're taking those meetings where you've got a little bit of a, hope I can sort of deliver on this effectively, not guessing that you can do it. You know what's got to be done, but it's got you sort of up a little later preparing, or maybe getting up a bit earlier. I like what you said about exercise and calming yourself and having good food, sleeping well. I remember in some of the leadership courses I've been lucky enough to do in the past with prior sort of corporate life work, they talked a lot about maladaptive stress management,
right?
Where when people are under intense stress, they do turn to drugs, alcohol, stay out all late. You're really avoiding the things that actually get you ready. If it's maladapting to the stresses you're under, when the exact thing you should be doing is get to bed early and, do your prep and start early.
I think also with what you said there about like turning to something else or not dealing with the stress, the people that are probably drawn to running their own business, having a go at their own business or whatever the case may be, they're also probably susceptible to, pushing themselves in everything they do. So whether it's your business or whether it's your social life or whatever you're getting,
work hard, play,
you're right into it. And so I think that's also probably getting away from the imposter syndrome stuff, but that's also a balance I think you've got to be aware of is if you're the type of person that you're constantly thinking about, I want to have a business and you're obsessive about it, you've also got to be careful about those other things that you can also get drawn down.
Properly accountable.
100%.
I think the other side of that too is when you run the company, those things that made you successful as an operator, codifying that and then managing that. And one of the things that I think took me a long time to learn actually was I sort of knew what good looked like for where certain things were being done, but I hadn't actually built the management oversight systems to make sure that despite it being done, is it being done well?
Yeah.
And as you sort of get a bit bigger and you're running more things, you actually can't be on everything. You need some sort of admin or management reporting mechanism to come back to let you know that it's being done well according to the commitments you've made. Yeah. How do you deal with that as you've grown your business and you've taken on more projects in areas that are new to you, new to the company and the Wyndham team?
Yeah, it's challenging. The very first part of that is the people that you bring into your business. You've really got to make sure you're spending a lot of time with them, educating them on how you do things, how you want things done, how your business is to operate for your clients. So that's probably the first is that, and the business the size that we're at, having 10 staff at the moment, it's a lot easier to do. And we've got quite a number of contractors that want our land access business, which is very key to your point. So
that was a big number though. I read that somewhere. It's 250, isn't it?
In the pool.
All your OH&S and they're signed off and your tickets you're monitoring and making sure they're all current.
Everything's fantastic. And when they're ready, what their specialty is, matching that up with location, what the client needs. So that geographically creates a challenge for us at managing that and making sure that the things that we've agreed to in our contract and the scope are being delivered and delivered on time and delivered well. So the people first. Secondly, and we're getting better at this now. We're now at a scale where this is super important. Probably the last 2 or 3 years we've focused heavily on it. So we take the view that it's our responsibility to deliver for the client. So in terms of, if you look at it from a head office relationship or relationship myself or a business partner, whoever, we make sure the client is happy all the time. So, whether it's a weekly check-in, fortnightly check-in, making sure those things are being done so that they don't have to go and manage any of our people. We know about it before our people do. And then constantly providing in-house capabilities to those people, either in our head office or in the field, as we call it, to get the job done, whether that's, support from in-house people for their back of house stuff, so their timesheeting, their invoicing, things that aren't client facing, getting that all sorted out, or other plans and journey management plans or things like that, to have that all sort of taken care of, so that then they can just focus on doing their job. So, and we're learning, as most people are, through that, the setting up processes and things like that. You know, we're getting through that. We've still got a lot of work to do there to be able to continue to scale, you know, to that 250 number and make sure that we're always constantly delivering it.
But I think we all, especially when you're going from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8, you really have to have that snake jaw, don't you, that sort of gets out and around. I think that is the nature of the beast. But you've done that well, because, I mean, Arrow was a large project and did that pretty early on. So you've obviously got that capacity and ability to really take those larger things, and you've got your arms around it, but your fingers aren't quite meeting, and you stay there until they do, you know. And it's a real challenge, isn't it? But the thing I want to touch on from there that gives the greatest capacity is you've also become a tech company. So, you know, I've been looking around before our meeting and prior conversations I had, you know, I've noticed you've got a range of subdomains. You've got a briefing that comes out. So you're still forgive me for saying, 10 people is still a reasonably small sort of, HQ there, but your reach and impact feels like it's substantially larger, and you're actually playing like a much bigger actor on the stage than you would otherwise, be forgiven for thinking you are as a group. I mean, that briefing you're sending out, the tool set you're building that I know you've sort of been playing with. Tell me a bit about that whole tech angle and what you hope that delivers for business.
We've always set people to be like, well, we want to deliver more than what you probably think you can do, and we want to deliver for big clients, and we want to, essentially, keep growing ourselves in a way. So it's actually good to hear that's kind of the way that when you do your research, that's the way it appears.
Definitely, it's a much greater impact than I would expect for a business of your actual physical scale.
Yeah.
And I do want to see Snake Jaw somewhere in your vision and mission statement. That'll be in your values.
We're working on capital values, so we'll add it on. Back to, so there's probably two parts of that.
Yeah.
So the tech business and our marketing philosophy, I suppose, in terms of getting word out there and trying to grow the visibility of the business. And we've always taken the view from a marketing sense. We love LinkedIn.
You've got an amazing following on LinkedIn.
I think we've communicated well who we are, what we do, the reach, all that sort of stuff. And that's, as you know really well, that takes a long time. That's not you do it for a year or two. You've got to do that for,
If you're flipping floppers, early businesses are often opportunistic.
Yeah.
Because you've got to grab that next opportunity. It's a rolling knife fight for survival. And I do think that if you can find that line early, what we do, who we do it for, how we do it, and maybe even why we do it, as that sort of escalating sophistication of that positioning. And it's funny how so many emerging companies they start and stay in the Me Too language of we also do these things, and they leave behind, no, don't tell me all the stuff you can do, tell me what you only do. Tell me what you're doing uniquely, because that's what I want to remember you for. And I think your land access piece is where you hung your hat pretty early. Are there lots of players in that space? Tell us something about what land access and what that entails.
Yeah, so land access, most people probably don't know what it is. There's actually I think it's on Netflix, maybe it's on Paramount. There's a series called Landman.
Oh yeah, I've seen
that. So Landman,
have you seen it? I've seen it.
Landman is the American version of land access. Obviously, very dramatised Hollywood version of it. But whenever someone asks me now, what's land access? Have you seen Landman? Most people are like, okay, now I understand it.
So that dramatic?
Certainly not. Certainly not.
Where's the big hat?
Yeah, I've got a few of those. Don't worry about that. So the land access business, so what we do is we've got a huge range of experts across many different areas that essentially any project, whether it be mining, oil and gas,
Inland rail,
big out.
RIP. Yeah,
yesterday. Very disappointing, actually.
Very disappointing. Nation building project, and we're not prepared to stick it out between parties.
So projects like that, high voltage transmission lines, so pretty much any major project other than a road, and Costello Group have worked on over the years. And the job is, as I said, there's various different roles in that, what we'd call land access, but essentially securing the land of those projects built upon dealing with the private landholders, farmers, dealing with councils, dealing with other stakeholder groups to negotiate compensation. That's a fairly small part of it, but to reach agreements about conduct reach agreements about how things are going to be done in terms of construction. There's a lot of front end parts to any of these projects.
Yeah.
So you're not involved with it, you probably don't realise. And in terms of who does it, look, there's probably 10 or so companies roughly around the country that specialise in that. Are probably purely just land access companies. That's what they do. That's what they focus on. And the other half are the major corporations that probably have maybe bought a business in years gone by and then brought that into what they do. Or some of the bigger consulting firms do that as well for some of the government.
But you've set your organisation up so that you structure that particularly, don't you? So there are people responsible for each of those sort of specialisations.
Yeah, so there's we've got leads across each of our divisions, our 3 divisions, and my business partners, so big family business. So yeah, and that's an example. Geordie runs our commercial property business.
Yeah.
Naomi runs our land access business, and Chap runs the tech side. So Chap's actually our cousin, so another family sort of link into what we do. Having that, especially when you've got, it's all property related, right? Like what we do is kind of based around property loosely. Are there any other companies that just do land access, commercial property? Probably not. We're probably the only one there, but you've got to have people, and myself and Bill, we know it because we do all of it. But we also notice that, once you get a bit bigger, you get more clients, you've got more demand. Spreading yourself too thin as a business owner is never a good idea. When you focus too much on doing work, if you own the business, that work finishes, you step back, you think, okay, what?
That's the feast and famine cycle of
100%. Yeah. So you're on the having those sort of designated leadership for and marketing and communications as one of those other 3 that I mentioned, very important.
I do think there's a danger in that where we allow the technology to displace the people. People still buy from people. That will persist. It is true that at some point in the future that back of house effort can be minimised. Well, that's great. That brings that person back to the front of the house where we can look after our customers, which means we can grow without needing more people. We can be more productive, more profitable, safer, sustainable as a business. I think that's all really, really important. But the thing I love about some of the tech coming through lately is it actually gives me more important information more urgently, and I can make better decisions faster. And even catch things when they're wrong. That's what I want. I want to deliver great service for our clients, so we're sort of getting it earlier, and I think that's a real benefit. As we think about how you grow, obviously anyone out there with the surname of Costello is in the frame. You can come join the family, but he's running out of family members. He's running out of family members, a growth limiting factor. So your growth, your ambition, your hunger for the company, where to from here? What's your sort of ultimate goal, or when's Pete Costello satisfied?
Always want to keep on growing.
How's your relationship with your father?
Where to from here? I mean, the ultimate goal is to have it doesn't have to be the biggest, but a business that is still owned by us, us and the group that works there. That's ultimately where we want to see it go. It's not something we've sort of looked at. Oh, we want to build it for 5 years. Look at something else. It's really a long-term, generational.
They often are the best businesses to buy. Someone built it to keep it. It means they looked after it.
Yeah.
Versus someone who's made it look good for sale and then
continue to grow those 3. So definitely the commercial property, that's sort of where it all started. The land access, to continue to grow that and get better, and delivering across everything across the country. And the tech, that's probably the next growth piece for the next 2 to 3 years. Really focusing on those 3 things, focusing on them, getting them operating to a point where, essentially there can be one person in there operating the business and running that team, however big that team is, and they can be sort of a self-sustaining business is really the plan. Whether we look at other opportunities in the future, who knows? Then I'm sure there's other opportunities that will come on after that, but really growing what we've got, getting it to a level that we've got exceptional people in the business, that they've got ownership and they've got their own equity piece and things like that in what they do, and growing that and continue to grow that is where I see it. We're definitely well on the way. There's plenty more work to do on that front. But I think at that point when we can look back in, I don't know, 20 years, 25, 30 years and think, okay, well, we've done this. There's a lot of people in the business now. They've all got a piece of it. They're all growing it. They're doing the work now. They're enjoying what they're doing and their lives are better. Mate, that's, then then at that point, probably there'll be some satisfaction. More satisfaction.
Should be super proud of where you're at and what you've built. 13 years in, what would you wish you'd known, your 10-year ago self? What would that tip be for today? What would you have told your 10-year ago self to watch out for? What's one tip you're going to leave us with?
Probably coming back to the other point, look after yourself. You can't do everything. You can't have, such a time-consuming, all-consuming thing like a business, but then still have all these other things that you're still trying to do everything and all at once. So, look after yourself first and foremost. And if you really want to, have a business, grow the business, have that dedication to it, have more sacrifice around some other things that are going to have to go to serve the main purpose in the business. I think, 10 years ago, mate, I was trying to do all sorts of different bits and pieces all over the place, but also still doing the business.
Yeah, on the business, but also I like that. More and more I'm anchoring on what's got to go, because we have these planning sessions. We want to grow. I don't know, last time, if I look back at last week, I was pretty busy. There weren't a lot of spare hours in there to put more in. So if I do want to do more of a thing or another, then what's got to go to make room for that? And I think that's the one area that I've got to get a lot better at as well, just to carve out the room for the new growth by cutting out some of the old stuff. So it's super important. Well, mate, thank you so much for joining us on Digital Dividends to talk about, Costello Group and the business you are. And mate, you should be super proud of it, and really keen to see where you get to from here.
Thanks, Jonesy. You've been really good, mate. Appreciate it.
Pleasure, Pete. Thanks. Cheers, mate.
Cheers.